This low intensity build for Galeshot reaches a very respectable DPS number of 29k with only using 4 buttons on the Galeshot bow. Just camping the Galeshot bow, the Cyclone bow. If you enjoy the Galeshot fantasy, be sure to check out this build. I'm Summer, and as always, special shout out to all my dear supporters that help me keep the lights on. And now without much further ado, let's jump straight in. This is a low intensity build, so you want to have as little effort as possible while still getting very high numbers. This is somewhat similar to my Soul Beast low intensity build. If you want to see that, be sure to check that one out. This is focused on the profession mechanic of Galeshot. That's why it doesn't reach the very crazy numbers over 30k, but it is very fun to play and has always 1200 range, which is crazy long range for a DPS build. So with that much said, let's start with the gear. The gear is really straightforward. You want to go full Berserker, armor, weapons, trinkets, everything. Full Berserker with superior Rune of the Scholar. If you can afford infusions, you can go even higher with the DPS. You would go with power infusions. That's the best in slot option, but of course not necessary. Full Berserker stats. That's the only important part. The Rune of the Scholar is also the best in slot, but you could also use Rune of the Dragon Hunter. It doesn't make too much of a difference. For weapons, you would go with Mace Axe in the offhand so that you have some CC, but you would only swap there if you will need CC with the 3 and the 4 skill. And you have, of course, Longbow. But the weapons, like I said, are not important because you will most of the time be in your Cyclone bow. That's it. So for weapons, if you choose whatever weapon you want, you would go with Berserker stats and superior Sigil of Impact and Force because the sigils and the stats still affect the Cyclone bow damage. Keep that in mind. So one weapon with Berserker stats, whatever it is, Impact and Force, that should be it. Trinkets, again, like I said, full Berserker, and Relic of the Thief. It's not roleplay, yes, but it's giving you a 5% damage increase all the time, and that's what we want, more damage. If you need more sustain, you could go for Relic of the Mist Ranger, or if you need even more sustain, Relic of Sakiros is fine as well, but Relic of the Thief is the best amount of damage that you can get, and you are, after all, a DPS build that you should play in a group. You don't provide any boons, or barely any boons, and this is a DPS build, so keep that in mind. Low intensity DPS build for group play. Let's now talk about the consumables. For the consumables, you want to go with cilantro, lime, sous vide steaks for the most amount of damage. If you cannot afford a sanded food, you would go with bowls of sweet and spicy butternut squash fruit. Very nice replacement. For utility consumables, you would go with superior sharpening stones or something that gives similar amount of power. Before I go to the trades, I want to mention, if you like this specific low intensity build, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. But now let's talk about the trades. So for the trades, it looks very similar to my quick DPS Galeshot build, which is linked here and in the description down below. This build uses a lot of damage multipliers for marksmanship and skirmishing. However, it's way less actions per minute. So we will see why, because we have different traits in Galeshot. Marksmanship, just a lot of damage multipliers, just some passive might, nothing crazy, some more damage multipliers, and big damage multiplier against bosses, 15%, really nice. Then you have skirmishing. You also have some really good crit multipliers that you get here, like more crit chance, more damage increases, passive bleeding, okay, not that important, some more power, that's good. And a lot more ferocity and more crit chance, just really, really good. And then you have, of course, Galeshot. That's why all comes together, why this is a low intensity Galeshot build anymore and not using like the crazy burst combos anymore. You have some nice damage increases while you have swiftness. Then you get some passive movement speed increases. Then when you use blasters, the next attack of your pet will do some more damage. Okay, just some passive damage, that's it. For your pet, by the way, you should use the Gazelle. It's really nice, just passively does some damage and CCs the enemy. I would use the head toss and put it on autocast with control right click. So you can actually get the Gazelle to always use the CC skill when it's off cooldown. That's just for the low intensity purpose. If you want to use another button and want to be able to CC when there's a break bar, for example, you can use that without the autocast. But yeah, more damage from this trait. Then you get more arrow generation whenever you CC or your pet CCs. That's really nice. You do a lot of CC, even in a low intensity build. That's quite nice. And that gives an arrow back, so you can use your Cyclone bow skills more often. And then the more important trait here is that you use Shrike. So whenever you hit 12 missiles, you restore 1 arrow and you release a volley of arrows at your target. So that means that you get some nice damage increase. And this is very important to restore all your arrows because you want to stay in Cyclone bow all the time. And that means that you have to restore arrows another way than just CCing. And therefore, this is the attack that you want to do. But you lose the damage buff from Gale Force, so keep that in mind. But the attacks here, I tested it. For me, staying in Cyclone bow is the only way to make a low intensity build that still does decent damage. So that's why Shrike is the way to go, and it's very fun. You have a lot of projectiles. That's why the Mist Ranger relic is actually also quite decent. But yeah, those are the traits. Let's quickly cover the skills. I will not cover any skills of the normal weapons because you can run whatever you like. I like to run Mace Axe in the offhand for like CCing with the 3 and 4 skill, and the longbow for even more long range attacks, but it's not necessary. The Cyclone bow is the shining star here. The auto attack just does some nice damage. The 2 skill does some damage, gives you an arrow. The 3 skill is an evade and deflect. You should not use that in your rotation. However, the 4 skill does some nice damage and some soft CC. And the 5 skill does some even more damage and is a CC, and there's even longer range, is unblockable, pierces, is really overloaded. So you use the 2, 4 and 5 for damage, that's about it. And whenever you get 5 stacks of those wind force, you will alter your auto attack and you will get Hawkeye instead, which you will use then as well. Does some heavy damage, 1500 range, really nice. So you would use your 1, 2, 4 and 5, that's it. And if you want to deal even more damage and get more arrow restoration so that you can really literally stay in the Galeshot bow forever, you would use your Perfect Storm of cooldown, which is just a lot of damage and some CC and gives you some arrows back. It's just really nice attack. Really strong and does a lot of AoE damage. For your signets, you just run Signet of the Wild for some passive ferocity, you run Signet of Renewal for some passive health regen, and Signet of the Hunt for some passive movement speed, because you are low intensity build after all. So you don't activate your utility skills. You could put in some utility skills of the Ranger's Goodness. I will not cover all of them because there are so many good ones, but this is the most passive setup. And then I would recommend Soothing Priest because it's just a nice super speed buff and just some healing, condition remove and arrow restored. So whenever you need some healing, you use this. And that's the whole setup. Now let's cover the rotation. The rotation is really straightforward. You want to engage the fight with your Perfect Storm, so your elite skill, into your 5 skill on Cyclone bow and the 2 and 4 skill, and then you auto attack until the 2 skill is back up. And then you use the 2 skill, and as soon as you have enough wind force stacks generated, which will be 5, you can use the Hawkeye, so your altered auto attack. And then you repeat this whole loop. Just always prioritizing using the 2 skill and getting to 5 wind force stacks so that you can use Hawkeye. And whenever you have Perfect Storm up, you use your elite skill. That's it. So very easy to follow, just very fun. And you can stay forever in the Cyclone bow with 1200 range if you wanted to. Just keep in mind, this is a group build, so you should still try to stack with the party to get the healing and the boons, but you could stay at range if you need to do mechanics and stuff like that. So very low intensity build, very fun, and it's just perfectly interacting with the Cyclone bow of the new Galeshot Elite spec. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again to all my supporters. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.